rewriting between, or going from radical notation back and forth between radical and our rational exponent notation. So our first example, 17 to the 4/3 power. We want to rewrite this with a radical, and when we have our radical, we just need to know where all those numbers go. Since 17 is the base, that's what's going to go inside our radical. And now, between the two numbers 4 and 3, one of them is going to go in this spot in the little nook of our radical. And the number we want to find for that is always the bottom of this fraction. So the root goes right here, and then the 4 is the power that we're raising it to, so the 4 is going to go right there. Now in our next example, here's our radical. The base is a -3, so that goes underneath the radical. Next, let's find the root, which is the bottom of that 5/7 fraction. That is going to go right there, and the whole thing gets raised to the 5th power. Alright, so here's our radical. Find the base, it's the 13. And 1 over 2, 2 is the root, so that's going right there. And then the 1 is going to go right there. Now this one we could write out like that, and that's perfectly fine. But the square root of 13 is also, or I'm sorry, the second root of 13 is the same thing as the square root. So we also could just write this as the square root of 13. To the first power is optional whether you want to write that or not, because that leaves, it doesn't change what our answer is. So it's still the square root of 13. Alright, so now we're rewriting in rational exponent notation. So again, start by finding the base. We're going to start with a 2. And between the 4 and the 5, we're going to make a fraction out of that. It will either be 4 over 5 or 5 over 4. We just have to know which one to use. And so I always look to see what the root is. The root's in that little nook right there, and the root always goes in the bottom of our fraction, which means it has to be this 5 over 4, where the 4 is in the denominator. So this is rewritten as 2 to the 5/4. Our next example, the base is a 7, so we write our 7. Now, looking for the root, we don't see anything here, so this is kind of like our example up above, where when they don't write it in, it's considered to be the second root, the square root, and they also didn't show us that there's a 1 out here, so this is 7 to the 1/2 power. Our next example, base is a -5. Because that's negative, we want to make sure to put that in parentheses. The root is a 3, so I know the 3 is going on the bottom of the fraction, and the 7 is in the numerator. So -5 to the 7/3 power.